You can feel it in the air. Something big is happening in Canada. The tension between Alberta and Ottawa isn't just a political disagreement anymore. It's starting to feel like the beginning of something much larger, something that could reshape the country itself. Premier Danielle Smith has once again set off political shockwaves with a fiery new message to Ottawa, one that's got the whole nation talking. Her words were sharp, defiant, and impossible to ignore. And if you've been following what's been happening over the last few weeks, you'll understand exactly why this moment feels so explosive. Because this time, it's not about budgets or pipelines. It's about control. And if you listen carefully to what's happening behind the scenes, it sounds like Alberta is quietly preparing for a showdown that could change everything. Let's break this down. When Danielle Smith said, "Ottawa won't control us anymore," she wasn't just talking about one policy or one decision. This was a declaration, a line drawn in the sand. Over the last few months, Ottawa's push for tighter federal oversight on energy projects, environmental regulations, and even provincial pension management has sparked outrage across Alberta. Smith's government believes that Ottawa is using these federal measures as tools of control, a way to keep the West in check, while eastern provinces continue to reap the benefits. And, honestly, that's how a lot of Albertans see it too. They feel like their province's wealth, its energy, its hard work, is being drained to fund policies they never asked for. So, when Smith spoke out, she wasn't just speaking as a premier. She was speaking for every Albertan who's ever felt ignored by Ottawa. And this time, it feels like she's not bluffing. Now, the part that's making waves isn't just what she said, it's what comes next. Behind closed doors, political insiders are whispering about a series of steps Alberta might be quietly preparing to take, steps that would push the limits of federal authority. Nothing confirmed, of course. But let's just say there's talk of asserting autonomy in ways Canada has never seen before. And the timing couldn't be more strategic. With the federal government already under fire over its new energy transition plan, the one critics say could cripple Alberta's oil and gas sector, Smith's latest warning feels like a preemptive strike. She's signaling to Ottawa, "We're not going to play by your rules anymore." But here's where it gets really interesting. Mark Carney, Canada's Prime Minister, has built his entire image around being calm, rational, and data-driven. A former banker turned politician, he's been selling his green energy transition as the path to Canada's economic future. But in Alberta, that message hasn't just fallen flat, it's ignited fury. And Smith knows exactly how to use that frustration to her advantage. In recent weeks, her speeches have shifted tone from cooperative federalism to open defiance. It's not the usual political theater. It's more like a calculated escalation. She's framing Alberta as the defender of economic freedom against an overreaching federal government. And that message? It's catching on fast. Even in provinces like Saskatchewan and parts of BC, leaders are quietly echoing Alberta's frustration. Some political watchers are even calling it a Western alignment, provinces that may not be talking openly yet, but are starting to coordinate behind the scenes. And that's exactly what has Ottawa nervous. Because if Alberta truly begins to assert control over its own affairs, whether it's pensions, policing, or resource management, it could inspire a chain reaction across the West. Just imagine that for a moment. A Canada where provinces start saying, "We'll take care of our own business." A Canada where federal policies don't automatically apply everywhere. That's the kind of scenario that keeps federal advisors up at night. And Carney's team knows it. Over the last few days, insiders say the Prime Minister's office has been scrambling to figure out how to respond, whether to confront Smith directly or try to calm things quietly behind the scenes. Because let's be honest, the last thing Ottawa wants is another full-blown constitutional fight. But Danielle Smith seems ready for one. She's been quoting Alberta's constitutional rights, citing provincial autonomy, and warning that Alberta's patience is running thin. She's even hinted that if Ottawa keeps interfering with Alberta's industries, her government could take what she called extraordinary measures. No one knows exactly what that means, but that's what makes it so powerful. The uncertainty alone is enough to shake things up. And let's not forget, Smith's timing is brilliant. Energy prices are rising again, Global instability is reshaping trade patterns, and Alberta's oil sector is once again proving it's the backbone of Canada's economy. So when Smith says Alberta deserves to control its own destiny, it's not just political talk, it's a statement backed by economic reality. She's framing it as a moral fight: Alberta, the hardworking province that fuels the nation, versus Ottawa, the bureaucratic power center that dictates from afar. And it's working. Across Alberta, rallies are growing. People are waving provincial flags, chanting slogans about freedom and fairness. Social media is exploding with support. Even people who used to stay quiet about politics are starting to speak out. There's a feeling that something bigger than policy is at stake, something almost historic. And while Smith continues to insist she's fighting for Alberta within Confederation, her rhetoric is walking dangerously close to a line Canada hasn't crossed since the 1990s Quebec debates. But here's the thing, she doesn't need to threaten separation outright. The power of her message lies in the possibility. The subtle suggestion that if Ottawa keeps pushing, Alberta could take matters into its own hands. And that's exactly what makes this moment so suspenseful. You've got a prime minister trying to hold the country together under a green economic vision, and a premier rallying her province to push back against that vision with everything they've got. You've got whispers of secret meetings, potential constitutional tests, and legal challenges being drafted in quiet offices across Edmonton and Ottawa. Every move from here on out matters. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get more tense, there's been talk, quiet but persistent, that other provincial leaders might publicly support Alberta's stance in the coming weeks. If that happens, it could be the start of a political realignment Canada hasn't seen in generations. Even south of the border, word is getting around. Some American commentators, including a few close to President Trump, have been watching this situation closely, calling Alberta's stand a symbol of economic independence. That kind of attention only fuels the fire. Meanwhile, back in Ottawa, Carney's advisors are trying to balance diplomacy with control. Publicly, they're downplaying the tension, calling it a healthy debate between levels of government. But behind the scenes, they know that Alberta's challenge could open the floodgates for others. And here's the part nobody wants to say out loud: if this power struggle keeps building, it won't just be a political fight. It could start to reshape the way Canada itself functions. Think about that. For decades, the balance of power between Ottawa and the provinces has relied on trust, on the belief that even when provinces push back, they'll ultimately fall in line. But what happens if one province, especially one as economically vital as Alberta, decides that line no longer applies? It's not an exaggeration to say that this moment could determine what kind of country Canada will be in the next decade. Will it remain a tightly bound federation led from Ottawa? Or will the provinces start carving their own paths, forcing a new kind of decentralized Canada into existence? One thing is certain: Danielle Smith's message has landed. Loud and clear. Ottawa won't control us anymore. It's more than a quote. It's a warning. And whether you agree with her or not, you can't deny one thing: something has changed in the West. And the rest of Canada? They're starting to feel it too.